Howdy, folks. I'm Yawning Itrium, youthfully yanking, yammering yardsticks.
I'm Amber.
And Amber, why are yardsticks yammering? As far as I was aware, they didn't speak at all.
Well, this is a brave new world we're entering. If they don't yet, they will soon.
I guess Amber is saying that yardsticks in the future will speak to us because of advancements in AI. You heard it here first, folks. Let's get started.
Also, there aren't very many Y words, so I'm kind of limited.
Alright, folks, our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Pretending Another Girl Was My Girlfriend? I'm a 25-year-old male, and I was out with my girlfriend, a 25-year-old female, and some other friends. We were drinking and having a good time. I smoke, I'm trying to quit, and went outside alone for a smoke. I was standing in front of the bar, just kind of a short walk away. I don't like standing right in front of the door because smoke gets into the bar or establishment. This frantic-looking woman is walking at a normal pace, and there's this guy a couple of feet behind her. She walks to me and says, "Hey baby, I'm glad that you're waiting where you said you would." I was confused at first, but then I quickly understood the situation. This guy was weird, and the way he was muttering weird things like, "Just give me your number, you're so pretty, I just want to talk to you," etc. When I told someone else the story, I was asked why I didn't react when I saw her walking and heard that. And the answer is, all happened very quickly and I had been drinking. Once I put it together, I said, "Hey honey, I've been waiting for you." And she put her arm around me and took longer than I would have liked for the guy to leave. I was being gentle, saying, "Alright, goodbye buddy, and we've got to get back home." Eventually, the guy left, but not because she wanted him to leave, because I kept insisting. Nothing bad happened at all. My girlfriend had been watching from the window and must have only caught the end part where she saw the other girl's arm around me. My girlfriend is not the type to cause a public scene. She'll wait until a private time to air her grievances. The girl had no money for an Uber and was planning on walking home but felt too nervous. So I arranged for an Uber to pick her up and waited outside with her until the car came. Jumping ahead to where I was at home with my girlfriend, she asked me what that was all about and wanted to know why her arm was around me and why I stayed after the creep left. She put together that the guy was being weird, but said that I shouldn't have let her put her arm around me, even though after the guy left, she removed it. None of my explanations were working, so I just turned to her and said, "What would you have wanted me to do? And if you were her, what would you have wanted a guy to do?" She just couldn't answer, and I said, "Stop flipping it." Alright folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk. I mean, it's an unfortunate situation this poor woman was in, and I think stepping in and helping her get away from the creep was an important move. I could understand your girlfriend's upset initially before you gave her the explanation, but once she had the explanation, I just don't see that being any problem with that.
Yeah, I think that this was a really good thing that OP did here, and it was clearly a moment of desperation for her because this guy had been following her and acting really creepy and weird. And it seems like, for whatever reason, she decided that OP was a safer individual and took her gamble on whether or not OP was going to be a weirdo, right?
Well, I think it just shows how desperate she was to get away from that one character that she trusted, this random strange guy, because he's not chasing after her mumbling, "Why don't you just give me your number?"
Yeah. So I'm really glad that OP did this because I think that this was a really important thing to do. He may have saved her life for all we know, right? This guy, clearly there was something wrong with the situation, and I think that OP did what he needed to do to ensure the safety of another individual, and sometimes that might come at certain uncomfortable things that happen.
Yeah, so, I mean, I hopefully, and I think the girlfriend on some level knows that what OP did is fine. That's why she doesn't like when OP turns it around, because what else was he supposed to do? And there is nothing else. Like,
Yeah.
you have to help someone get out of danger.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think OP did the right thing. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And IC Department 1423 says, Not the jerk. Thanks for helping a stranger. Ask your girlfriend what she would have liked a stranger to do if she was in that situation. I would have thanked my boyfriend. And OP replies, I asked, but I received no answer. And Just Be Decent 333 says, You did the right thing. I would frankly be a bit concerned by her reaction and what it might indicate for the future. And Errant Knight 1 says, yep, this was a strange reaction. You might want to gently back out of this relationship. I'm getting some Yander vibes. Obsessively jealous people are no fun to date at all. I have no idea what Yander is. And the Bank of Dean says she's avoiding an answer because she knows you're right, but still feels jealous about the situation. And D20 Sapphire says, P.S. You can feel jealous and realize that this woman was desperately trying to protect herself and would have wrapped her arm around Shrek if it would have spooked the guy away. Conflicting feelings happen and are okay. OP did the right thing, and the girlfriend, hopefully, will deal with the internal conflict without making it seem like OP did anything wrong. And I do actually want to kind of talk about that for a moment here. I mean, I think that it is a perfectly... Sometimes people are going to do something and it's going to make you feel slightly jealous. And that isn't necessarily... that doesn't necessarily make you a bad person, but you shouldn't project those feelings onto other people. Now, unless like they're actively doing something that's actually crossing boundaries, right?
Right. And like it may generally be a relationship boundary that like you don't put your arms around other people, but like I think, extraordinary circumstances require extraordinary measures. And so I think, like, again, there's nothing wrong with having these conflicting internal feelings, and even like just saying, hey, I know that what you did is the right thing. It still made me feel kind of uncomfortable. I'm trying to process that. But like at the end of the day, it's on her to process those feelings and just kind of accept that what OP did was reasonable in the circumstance.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Forcing My Parents to Watch My Daughter? I'm a 28-year-old female, and I'm a single mother to a 5-year-old daughter. I spend the majority of my time with her and usually bring her along to most things that I do. She's good and peaceful kid. On Friday, I went on an overnight getaway. I hadn't done anything by myself in 3 months. My parents are very staunchly against anyone not in our family babysitting or watching their granddaughter. But as a single mom, it's simply not possible. I work at a daycare, so I'm with her pretty much all day. But when she starts school very soon, it will just be something that ends up happening. If I even hired a babysitter, they are extremely upset. I had this planned out 2 weeks in advance and asked my parents first thing if they could watch my daughter overnight. They said that they were busy and would be seeing a stand-up comedian and probably a movie over the weekend. So I asked my brother and sister, but both of them were busy as well. So I asked my best friend, a 30-year-old female who also has kids. I trust her. Also, my kid is friends with her kid. Well, the day came and my parents were texting and calling. I was at work and I couldn't answer. After work, I called back and they were like, so, who's watching her? They called and texted my siblings to see if they were going to watch her. I told my parents that my best friend was watching her. This caused them to flip out, saying that you can't leave her with strangers. I said that this stranger is my best friend. They realized that I wasn't budging or dropping it. Then, when I was on my way to the getaway, I get a text from my mom saying, we're picking her up. Thanks for forcing us to do this. So they canceled their plans and picked up my daughter and watched her until I got back. All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk. You didn't force your parents to do anything. First of all, your parents are not the parents. They are grandparents.
Yeah.
They do not get a say in who watches their grandchild. And I think they've taken this to a point of absurdity. Like, this isn't some random stranger off the street. This is your best friend. And so it may be time to start having some difficult conversations with them and setting boundaries and just letting them know that babysitters will be a part of your child's life. And like, you're not always going to tell them when you're going away.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a pretty reasonable take here. OP doesn't need to report to their parents. They're an adult. They can do what they want to do. And I mean, certainly, like, family is always a tricky subject. There's always a tricky dynamic. But what OP did here wasn't unreasonable. They had a friend who said that they could watch their child. Now, I could understand the parents being upset if OP had abandoned their child at home by themselves for the weekend getaway and said, you're on your own, kid. Then, yeah, the parents would be perfectly justified in being upset with how OP handled the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But they are bringing this extra work upon themselves. They said that they couldn't do it, and OP respected that and didn't push them and said, okay, if you can't watch them, I'll find someone else to watch them. And they did. So, again, I think that this is a them problem and not a you problem. But how you would resolve something like this, I don't have a really good answer other than hopefully family therapy. I mean, I think
Yeah.
sitting down with a third party and kind of having some of them help you work through a discussion might be a good approach.
Yeah, and then having someone to can back you up on setting boundaries, like maybe talk to a therapist first to help you come up with what feel like reasonable boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you can have the therapist there to like help you explain to your parents that like this is your child and you are making the best decisions for your child that you can, but you are not always going to be able to raise or want to raise your child exactly like you were raised.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Coastal Kid 92 says, not the jerk. It sounds like your parents are perhaps a bit too involved in your parenting, probably out of necessity when you were younger. It's time for you to enforce some boundaries and assert yourself as the parent. And Miss Prinkles 3 says, yeah, this sounds like the kind of thing that could escalate as she gets older. I was raised by a single mom, and it truly does take a village. OP's parents have no right to dictate who that village is or risk burning bridges that OP has with said village because they think that their opinion matters more than the actual parents. It's only going to escalate when she gets older. What if she wants to have a sleepover at a friend's place, or needs a carpool to a soccer game? Are they going to refuse their granddaughter totally normal experiences to placate their own paranoia towards people that don't share DNA with them? Because they keep stomping all over boundaries right now. That could be very well possible if not nipped in the bud now. Not the jerk. OP, you didn't make them do anything. They made a decision and are choosing to blame you instead of respecting the choices that you made as a parent. And then Sad Vacation says, nipped in the bud, not nipped in the butt. I did catch that typo as I was reading through this. I just thought it was very funny. There are so many expressions in the English language, and sometimes people will not get them right. And I mean, we've all had expressions where we think that they're one way, but it turns out they're a different way. And you're like, wait, no, that can't be right. Is it that?
Sweet as honey from the beet.
Sweet as honey from the beet. Was that one that you...
Yeah, it should be sweet as honey from the bee,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I heard it as beet, and so I thought for a long time that was how it went.
Yeah. I thought meandering was spelled like Neanderthal, so neandering. So like Neanderthals kind of like are depicted as hunching and stuff like that. So as a kid, that's my like how I always thought about meandering. But it turns out that my entire world was shattered when I found out that it was actually spelled with an M and not an N. Alright folks, and our last letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Temporarily Lying to Family and Friends to Trap a Flying Monkey and Enabler? I'm a 36-year-old female, and I have been no contact with my narcissistic, emotionally abusive parents for a year now. I changed my number ages ago, but somebody had given them my new number as they recently attempted to make contact. I'm only in touch with our 4 mutuals, my sister, my aunt, childhood friend, and a cousin who is not the child of the aunt in question. Before I changed my number again, I wanted to trap the rat, tell each one a lie, and then see which one gets back to my parents before changing my number, so that I don't accidentally give it to the rat. These are the lies. 1. I told my sister that I was having an affair, warned husband of this ahead of time, he's in on it. Told my aunt that I think that I might be a lesbian. Parents are very homophobic. Told the childhood friend that I think that I'm pregnant, and told my cousin that I'm moving back to my hometown, where my parents live, for a job. It didn't take long. 3 days later, I get a text from my mom, excited about how I'm moving back, and it's the perfect time to bury the hatchet. Cousin, busted. I then changed my phone number and cut off contact with the cousin and gave the 3 other my new number and told them the situation, that these were all lies and I had to catch a rat to see who was giving info to my parents. Aunt and childhood friend understood, but my sister, while she wasn't the rat and never told my parents, thinks that I went too far and is upset with me for lying to her and is insulted that I think that she would betray my confidence. I told her that I had to do this to protect myself from people who were leaking information. Am I the jerk? Alright folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
No, I don't think you're the jerk in this case. I mean, you were in a very sticky situation. Someone close to you was leaking this information. It sounds like you were really close with all these four people.
Yeah.
And so there was no reason you could necessarily be like, aha, it's that person.
Yeah. The way I would have actually approached this without lying is I would have bought 4 burner phones. Like you can buy these phones at Walmart or Target or whatnot, right? And they're like some amount of money. Some are like $25, and they come with like 30 minutes or something like that. But then you give out the number to each of the 4 people, and you wait to see who comes, which phone number is given, called by your parents, and then you know who has leaked the number. And the nice thing about this is that since you have 3 phone numbers to choose from at that point in time, you just choose one of the new phone numbers and you tell the other 2 that you ended up changing your number again. And then no one has to know at all that there was even someone who was leaking information and stuff like that. So you don't have to lie, and you don't have to worry about people catching on to this information, right?
Yeah, but you still have to spend money on burner phones. It's a little more elaborate and requires more than just coming up with some clever lies.
Sure, sure. I'm not saying it's the cheapest option, and I think that the way OP approached this is questionable because of of the lies itself, the moral implication. In this particular case, the means may have justified the end, but I still think it's a little bit ethically questionable to lie to people, even if you have the intention of revealing the information at a later date. I'm not saying that OP is an immoral person either. I just think that it isn't necessarily, it's a bad situation, and there isn't always a good solution to bad situations. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Hit and Run says, you're the jerk. You're playing games with people's emotions to benefit yourself. People are going to talk, that's normal. If you want to keep something a secret, then don't tell anyone. What you're doing is childish and dumb. And OP replies, I want people I trust to have my number, not my parents. Should I have just no phone at all, or give no one my phone number?
Well, and I think that what this person isn't taking into account is the toll on OP's mental health that interacting with her narcissistic parents has. Sometimes you have to make tough choices to benefit your own health. You know, this isn't like OP was spreading these lies just for funsies and never clarifying them. It was for the specific person of figuring out who can I not trust with this information.
Yeah. And Hit and Run says, you're 36. You've likely been away from your parents longer than you've lived with them. If they were so abusive, why are you still giving them power over your actions? It's childish. It also doesn't definitively solve the problem. They could have all told your parents, but the only information that got them excited was that you were coming home to be close to them. At some point in your life, you're going to have to accept the responsibility that your life is what you made it. It's not a product of abuse.
Oh my goodness, this is just such a bad take. I do not like this take at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly OP needs to take responsibility for their actions, but I don't know that that is the case in this particular situation.
Well, this person doesn't understand how abuse functions either, that it creates psychological wounds, sometimes really deep psychological wounds, and to say, oh, well, this isn't your abuse. No, abuse does have serious psychological and emotional toll on people.
Yeah.
And even with intensive therapy, your brain can be forever rewired. And hearing from your abusers can trigger all kinds of different responses, panic and fear and other adverse emotions.
Yeah, and so I think that this is a situation that needs to be handled delicately, and I don't think that this person has necessarily the best for OP in mind here. And I mean, certainly everyone's going to have their own particular takes and views on certain things, but I don't think that this is necessarily the most helpful for someone like OP. OP is just trying to get out of a bad situation, and they did it in a way that they thought was going to provide them the easiest route. And I mean, again, easy is not necessarily always the best, but in this particular case, it did get the point across, right? And OP replies, giving them power over your actions. They have their enablers giving them godlike status. I can assure you that they don't need any extra power from me. And Static Jacuzzi says, you're the jerk. 2 of your lies are not really secrets. The affair and the gay thing are obviously confidential, since your parents are seriously homophobic. The 2 other lies are just updates on your life. Might just pop in a regular conversation, especially if they are asking about news of you. And OP replies, it isn't though, because they all had explicit instructions not to share this information with my parents whatsoever. And E3R says, not the jerk for telling unique lies in order to catch a rat, but you're the jerk for choosing to lie to your sister that you're having an affair. That's a big thing to have to roll back on, where all of your other ones are deniably undoable. I'm pregnant, I lost a job to the new boss, I think that I really like the dress that she was wearing and got confused. Your sis will have gone through a lot of divided loyalty stuff for you already. So asking her to choose you over your marriage already after choosing you over your parents is too much. I mean, I do think that the affair one was maybe a bit of a much thing. I mean, that can actually be really hard because some people have very strong feelings about affairs. And like if you say that you're cheating on someone, then that might make them really disrespect you in a lot of ways. And OP replies, I didn't force her to choose between me and my parents. They did that. I told her all along that I understood if having me in her life would cause her too much grief with my parents, and she chose to stay loyal to me. Alright, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here. And Amber, she's grinning as she's about to read a jovial Bobstein joke.
What would you get if you crossed a monster and a cat?
I can tell you exactly what you would get if you crossed a monster and a cat because I happen to be friends with said cross between a monster and a cat. You get a perfect monster.
A neighborhood without any dogs.
A neighborhood without any dogs, that too. And I have licorice spice.
But I guess some cat owners would probably say it's just a cat.
Some would say that it's just a cat, but a lot of cats are just evil, right?
Well, I don't think they're evil. They're adorable.
They're adorable, evil.
But they can be. Some of them, your smarter cats, can be a little conniving and clever.
Yeah, but they do hunt for sport, and they can be pretty devastating to the local wildlife, and so that does kind of make them, in some ways, like little monsters.
But they're the most adorable, and I love them.
They are. They are. Alright, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Tuesday, spelled TWO. I can't believe it. We're already 2 days into the week, and I haven't even done work yet. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please make it a very clever lie.
What if instead of making it a lie, I just give you a question, and suppose there's a murderer at your door, and they're looking for me. What do you do?
What do you do? I don't answer the door?
Well, you don't know that they're a murderer until you answer the door, and then they're like, hey, I'm a murderer. I want to murder Amber. Where is she?
Then I call the police on my very convenient cell phone and say, yeah, though I'm getting her right now. She'll be out in a couple of moments.
Oh, so you do lie, and then Kant would say you're terrible.
That's fine. The ends justified the means in this particular case. But I didn't lie. I said that I would get you in a minute, and I do get you in a minute, right? After he's already arrested.
Yes, well, the cell phones, being able to call the police, makes it a little bit easier than like the 1700s or whenever Kant was writing his stuff.
Yes, it does make it a lot easier to contact the police. So, sorry, Kant. Your thought experiment fails in this modern time. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye!